Welcome to another episode of Evil Dojo raylib game developments. Last time y'all got to see a plane with some trees, and I had a bunch of stuff hacked up where I attempted to merge two different demos together, and it didn't quite work out as expected. So, start with I'm going to go ahead and delete a lot of that old code so that we get back to just a plane with trees. A little light cleanup work here. Let's speed it up a bit. Hope everyone's having a good day. It is May 29th, 2024. And I'm looking forward to getting back to doing some more raylib stuff. The other day I decided to play around and work on hallways because thanks to Chatter Octopus, who comments and streams on YouTube as, I believe, Venatio Decorus. Very unique name. I like it. Well, thanks to him and his informing me that by default, raylib has backface culling enabled. So in order to fix that, so we can actually see the bottom of the plane, we're going to disable backface culling in a few moments as I clean up the screen gameplay source file. So now we're back to trees. We've got our plane, and we can see the bottom and top of it, which is kind of cool. So as you can see on line 76, we have RL disable backface culling, which means that we get to actually see the backside of things actually rendered, because by default, what happens is whenever the camera perspective goes behind an object in a way, such as a plane or like beneath it, the render, when backface culling is enabled, disables the rendering, literally, of the backsides of any sort of polygons or objects that you render in your environment. Which is pretty cool. So shout outs to Octopus. Now that we figured that out, we're going to play it around a bit. No longer drawing trees. But I had the thought, what if I could just disable backface culling briefly? I wanted to test to see if this would actually work, and as it turns out, it does not. You have to disable or enable backface culling before you start drawing. So when I say before, it would have to come in the initialization of this gameplay screen and not in the draw gameplay screen function. So the code compiles, but I find that, oh no, backface culling is still disabled. I'm not able to actually call this function inside of the draw gameplay screen function successfully. I play around a bit and find that, yeah, it still doesn't work no matter where you put it. Even if you put it before begin texture mode. So with it back, now things properly work again. And with it disabled, or enabled rather, I decided I want to draw a cube. I was trying to make a cube spin at one point, and it didn't quite work out. Forget what I'm drawing here exactly, but I think I have the idea. Oh, I want to make a hallway. That's right. Each of the walls is going to be a different color. So now we have a ceiling. It's pretty cool. It's pretty far up though. Like way far up. Too far up to be realistically a ceiling for a small hallway that I'm trying to craft. So I start to play around with the position of the top plane on top of the bottom. And actually they're not even planes, they're cubes. They're very thin cubes that are 1 unit tall, shaped to look like planes. I'm drawing a third one. The reason I use cubes is because I'm going to need cubes for the walls. I haven't figured out how to do like a plane that's perpendicular to the normal plane, right? Like, so that, so we colored the sideways wall red. Anyone who's red-green colorblind can feel the pain along with me. So I play around with position to get the exact location of the wall as it should be on the side of the planes perfectly. It takes a little tweak. There's little numerical nuances that I figure out here. And because of the very fast build and run cycle that I've got going, I can very quickly test out new things, trying to get the position correct. So now we're really close. We've got the wall anchored, but as you can see, there's a bit of a graphics glitch when two cubes intersect. And so we want to make them pixel perfect. So that's going to take adjusting the values a little bit. So we've got a bit of an intersection going on up there. I realize I have to move the X value on this cube's position. And then I have to extend the height just a tad. So now the cube is perfectly aligned with the side of the planes. And we can make it just a little bit taller. And just a little bit taller. And just a little bit taller. Actually, we can move it down and shift everything just by like 0.5. And that should actually keep things lined up. Almost. We just got to move it just down a little bit. Like the whole thing down. There we go. Now it's perfect. Look at that. Look at how the angles touch. That's so nice. It feels good already, and we don't even have the last wall in. So now we have to do it on the opposite side. First try. Very nice. Look at that. We've got a room with 4 walls. Well, 2 walls and a ceiling and a floor. Close enough. So now we're going to play around with the length of the hallway and the size so that we can create like a very long hallway. Because one thing I'm working towards is kind of like a setup where we're going to have like an infinite projection hallway. But I start off by putting the trees back in just to have a little bit of fun here. We're on some Bob Ross shit right now. We got these happy little motherfucking trees all up in your grill. What are you going to do about it? You're going to be like, oh man, that looks so good. That's so pretty. I want to summon my own trees into my own world and put them in a box in space. I should probably get a sun. You know, this would be a great idea now I'm thinking about it out loud. Like a fucking virtual garden. Not like fucking Stardew Valley, right? Like, not like Harvest Moon, but like a Zen box garden. I don't know. It's an idea. So, actually thinking about it out loud, some of the JSON stuff that I do for Skull, I could be doing here. So that's an idea for the near future. But I'm going to have to figure out how to get C++ compilation integrated into the setup, because everything is C-based in raylib, and I need C++. You don't understand how badly I need it for my projects. I don't want to have to build and use C-based data structures to do a lot of this shit. Especially when we have stuff like the STL at our disposal. So, we got a box in space with trees. I'm trying to put a texture behind the debug panel that I've created so that we can like kind of see it a little bit better. I think I decided to go for white font at this point. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Now we've got real information, very visual, while we're doing this. I also decided I want to have the FPS displayed, but I don't want it in the position that's like default. So I end up moving it to the bottom right, just so that we can have both displayed on the screen. They have a built-in FPS display, which is kind of nice. And it's rather easy to use. You can see it on the bottom right now. Everything's very smooth. Records nicely, renders nicely. Can't really complain. I show you all a little bit about how I go about aggregating these clips together before continuing. We're going to do some FFmpeg. Sorry. So you do, and this is like my most common thing that I do when editing videos, is I concat a bunch of MKVs together into a big MKV, because often I'll record little clips at a time, right? So when you have your list of MKVs, you put them into a file, and then you type this command. And actually, you have to tweak the file a little bit, but like in general, this is what you do. You run ffmpeg with -f concat -safe0 -i files.txt. In other words, your list of files, or rather file commands, because you actually have to go into that text file and put the word file followed by a space, a single quote, and then the path to your MKV that you want to aggregate, and then a closing quote, one per line. Then you do -c copy, and then the name of your output file. This particular file is raylib 3D hallway, no sound. And there you go. Now we have a big MKV that we can use later and aggregate into another project. So you can see it right there. Boom. This is my working folder. All right, now back to playing around with our hallway developments. I noticed that the tree height was a little bit shortened by the cube, so I put a plane back in there. No more trees. We're going to make the plane longer. We'll start by making a really long plane. A thin, long plane. Look at that. All right, we're getting somewhere. That needs to be way longer. That's the ticket. That's what we want. We want something like this. Let's go and get our walls back in there. That's starting to look pretty good, actually. Now let's get our side walls back in there. Back in there. All right, so we got to move the wall over a bit. And we have to readjust. All right, we've got a wall on the side. And we need to get one on the other side. Look at that. That looks so nice. It makes me think of Star Fox. Recreating Star Fox is totally a viable option. Like, we are more than capable of doing this now. I know this is very early to be saying something like that, but that's the feeling I get when I'm playing around in this environment. Let's get that other wall in there so we actually have a semblance of a hallway. Everything a different color. That looks so nice. I decided I want to try and draw some wires around the cubes to see if they'll stand out or something, but I think it's because they're lined up so closely to each other that we actually can't really see the cube wires when I attempt to draw them, which is fine. You can kind of see them here, but not really. But at this point, oh yeah, I see that they're overlapping a little bit. But at this point, I start thinking, I want something in the hallway to give the semblance that I'm actually moving through it when I start going forward, because the hallways are so long that it doesn't really give the feeling of movement when you're moving forward and backward, because there's no grid lines, there's no sort of indication that you're even moving other than that little black square at the very end, just slowly becoming bigger because we're not moving very quickly through it either. That's one thing that I still have to tweak on, is exactly how to increase the movement of the camera by more than just like 1 unit per frame, because at the moment it's kind of slow and takes a while to actually like get through something. So we can see that we're able to move side to side, and that renders pretty nicely. And I just can't help but thinking, gosh, I really want a small cube somewhere in the center. something to indicate movement a little bit better. End up making a cube that's a little bit too big to start with. It's like so big, it's like covering a wall. And it's like poking outside of the hallway. I'm like, okay, I'll make it smaller. Now we got a white cube. And, it gets closer when you move past it. And that's pretty good. And I really began thinking at this point, man, I really want to be able to move faster through space with my camera. How do I do that? I noticed that we have this ability to shift projection or camera modes. There's a few different camera modes that are kind of interesting. Not immediately useful for what I'm trying to do here. And I start looking around the raylib main source file. I attempt to use Copilot, see if it can't autocomplete something, but there's no set camera move controls function, much to my dismay. I think we're getting close to the end of the video here. I start trying different things, failing. I try to see if there's anything on the camera object that might indicate speed. I haven't played around with field of view yet. I need to do that. I try playing around with the perspective. That doesn't really work. I try setting some other things, trying to get autocomplete to give me some sort of a hint as to what I have to do here. If anyone in the comments knows off the top what I would have to do in order to make camera movement move like forward, back, left, right faster, please let me know. I was looking it up and someone was suggesting I'm going to have to actually modify the raylib camera object or implement my own. I attempt to check. Now, this actually upsets me about the documentation. I like using links to and e-links and other text-based browsers. And it would be really nice if the cheat sheet wasn't rendered as fucking images, because I can't even look at the documentation from my terminal. It's really upsetting. Like, to a point where I'm going to have to, if I want to continue using and looking things up, like, I don't want to be forced into my fucking Google Chrome or Firefox or whatever just to be able to look shit up. That sucks. That actually sucks. Like, really fucking annoying. So actually, this is about where the video stops because of that reason. So next time y'all see me, we're going to have figured out camera speed, how to actually move faster into the hallway, and try to get something really interesting cooking from a first-person perspective. There's a lot of potential from this space, and for what raylib does correctly or easily, I am very thankful that it exists. And I encourage everyone to try and build things in it. In the end, Skull's going to probably get a rewrite in raylib, especially with its offer to port to so many different platforms. But this is one of the nuances that is a bit frustrating in picking up a new thing in general, is needing access, like good access to documentation. And without a proper text-based interface on your website for this, that's currently not possible. So my workflow is going to be forced into continuing to refer to my graphical browser in order to access this documentation until I either find a text-based documentation where I can, throw it up in terminal on stream like this, or build it myself. And if I have to do that, I'm going to be pretty fucking annoyed and shit about it, but at least then I'll be able to have a much better quick reference for when I need to look things up. Until next time, everyone, this is Dark Mage of Evil Dojo. Take it easy as always.